So now you are spotlighted for everyone. And after I get the Facebook Live going, you can let others in.
Okay. I think I'm gonna clean our window too. We gotta clean quickly. Okay. Maybe. Sun.
I'm going to go off mic and camera now.
Okay. Well, camera. Anyway, hi Sunny, you know you're on. So how are you tonight? Are you there? I think she's muted. So maybe what we need to do is everybody else. You had some Facebook.
We are just about to go Facebook Live. You become a host when we do.
Okay, and then we should start admitting people.
Yeah, you should be live now.
Okay.
So you should be live now. You can welcome people as a host.
Okay. Hit it. Yes, hi everybody.
Hi.
Hi, it's David and Helene, positive people, and positive. Anyway, we want to welcome you tonight to Mynoo's wonderful insights. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the
Resurrection and
resurrection and restoration of the gut. And we're going to talk about the 4 anchors that enable us to restore the full restoration of the gut. I'm excited.
very,
We were here a couple of weeks ago talking about the gut.
yeah.
So we have double opportunity.
And who is this that we see here? Is that
Aisha. Anyway, we hope everybody's doing great tonight. And we're excited to hear from Mynoo, as always, for her wisdom come through. That's Sarah.
yes. Sarah, huh?
Hi, Sarah. How are you tonight? Here we are. Host.
You
So,
both.
good to be here. And I think Mynoo is back with us.
Yes. Hello.
Hello.
Hi. So I think everybody's admitted at this point.
Great. 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 So I'm looking forward to this one. This is the third in the 3-part series on the gut. We began the first one, which is also the one that both of you hosted, which was about the gut disconnection. And then last week we worked on the gut connection, and today we're talking about resurrection and restoration. So
we were disconnected last week.
So let's begin. And as always, this is more of a session that you can be interactive. If there is stuff that I'm talking about that instigates certain questions, or some things come up for you to share, then just go ahead and interrupt my transmission and we'll engage with that. If anybody who is watching has got any questions, then you can put it in the chat. And then if you can stay on top of that, David and Helene, that would be great. If there are any questions on the chat, then you can bring those in and I will address those as well. Okay,
Great,
Yes.
thank you.
so let's begin. So the first thing is for us to get on the same page in terms of what it actually means. You know, what does resurrection mean and what does restoration mean? So that when we talk about all of this in the context of the gut, we understand what's actually occurring. And when I was preparing for the session last night, I really became so present to that truly, you know, this human form is absolutely miraculous. So much of what we take for granted is constructed in such a perfect way. There's such nuance in every little piece that makes up every tissue, every cell of our human form. And it's quite a substantial being, you know, 124 trillion cells is not insignificant. That, you know, that we carry with us everywhere that we go. So resurrection is like the act or a fact of bringing someone or something back to life. So if something has gone out of existence or out of use, resurrection is actually bringing it back into use or existence. And when I like re-engage with this meaning in the context of the gut, I was a little bit shocked that, okay, the fact that there is a need for resurrection, that means there are some parts of our gut, due to a sustained period of disconnection, actually become, go out of use and even die off. So it is exciting to know that if that does occur, then we can resurrect. Let's look at restoration. Restoration is a return of something to a former, original, normal, or unimpaired condition. Restitution of something that has been taken away or lost. And that is what's meant by, you know, that something is restored. A number of times in the context of furniture, for example, it is about renovation or reconstruction or reproduction of an ancient building. It could be even an extinct animal, or like taking something that was ancient, restoring it and showing it in its original state, restoring it back to its original glory, if you like. That's what restoration means. So in the context of the gut, that's what we are focusing on in this session, where the gut might have become rendered useless, or some of the gut tissues might be not functional, resurrecting them and restoring those that have got impaired in some form. So let's look at the first of the four anchors that we are talking about. The first anchor is the 4 elements. And for some, it's actually the 5 elements. So the first anchor is the 5 elements. The 5 elements being fire, air, water, earth, and space, or ether. How do the 4 elements become an anchor? And what impact can this have on the well-being of the human form? So let's reconnect to what the gut is. The gut is a combination of your stomach, duodenum, your small intestine, and your large intestine. There's a lot of water that exists in the cavity in which the gut as a muscle form exists in our bodies. So water as an element is very, very present and absolutely essential. It is an element that the gut is surrounded by it is also an element that is inside the gut and allows for movement of substance that goes into our gut. So what does water as an element do? Water washes away the debris and brings flow. So as an element, it's really important to understand that, one, keeping ourselves hydrated is good and important, but also more importantly, the fact that water washes away the debris and brings flow, it's important to remain consciously aware of what are we flowing into. Water is also considered to be a carrier of messages, an important carrier of messages. It's a carrier. And it's a carrier of the seed of life. That is how water originated, as a carrier of the seed of life. So as a carrier of the seed of life, it's really good to know that it is there in our, there's so much of our gut is made up of water. And how active it is in terms of the regular and decent functioning of the gut. And it's one thing knowing that. It's another thing in terms of enriching this water so it carries the messages of well-being. So when I looked at my own practices around the gut, I mean, I do have quite an extensive breathing practice that I follow, where there are several breathing exercises which really do create some focused movement in this whole gut region. So there are times when I'm engaged in some of those breathing practices where I may even have my hands just holding that region of my stomach and abdomen. And I often just breathe into it love, kindness, and compassion. And as I'm breathing out gratitude and anchoring the vibration of peace. Sometimes in my meditations, I do that very consciously. So really what I'm doing here is, I'm by having my hands over my gut, I'm bringing about an energy exchange between several of my tissues. And that energy exchange has got a vibration of love, of kindness, and compassion. And even as I'm exhaling with gratitude. Whatever I may be exhaling, good, bad, ugly, beautiful. And by remaining connected to gratitude, I anchor that state of peace. Now, the gut is home for large colonies of microbiomes. The number of living beings within our body that reside in the gut is quite like astounding and astronomical in terms of numbers. So if we are able to connect to them and bring the message of love, kindness, and compassion, and remember the good bacteria are actually in quite a nice, happy state. And the bad bacteria are just doing their thing. They're not good or bad, really. For those of you who've done my work, I'm not about, giving meaning to anything. The bottom line is that there are some bacteria that are actually much more in tune and rhythm of our human form. And every living being has some function, and the microbiome is there to collaboratively coexist. And because it is about collaborative coexistence, it enriches us and we enrich it. The other bacteria are trespassers. And therefore, they cannot find the rhythm within our system. Our bodies don't naturally service them, so they have to exercise command and control. And that is where the discomfort and all of that comes in. But if you focus on consciously bringing in higher vibrations into our gut region, vast majority of living organisms that exist within this human form uplevels its vibrations because we are consciously supplying it with that. It already is in a good state. So suddenly, vast majority of our presence rises to match this higher vibration. Everything that exists, that is present in our reality, is only able to be present if there is a vibrational match. So the vibrational match now is going to be things that match this higher vibration. So suddenly our world transforms because you've been uplifted and even placed on a higher vantage point simply by connecting to the gut and infusing it with conscious awareness, the vibration of love, kindness, and compassion. And even when you're breathing out, you know that toxins are you're breathing out toxins. So they are being released. And you're doing that also with gratitude. And that anchors peace. So the flow that you are bringing back into your system by doing this is working with the water element is that vibration of peace. And that is the key to that stillness. And once you crack the code of finding yourself in a state of peace in any situation, you can remain still regardless of whatever is going on. And that gives you the opportunity to make discerning choices, getting clarity in your mind about the consequences of the action you're about to take. And you can become even clearer by choosing the consequences. And stillness multiplies. It is stillness that gives you the ability to be an observer in any situation. To me, it is this art of stillness that has enabled me to be fully and completely and actively and sometimes emotionally engaged with living my life. And this anchor of the four elements, and we've only talked about one so far, in the context of our gut, enables that in a very powerful way. So there are times where, and we've all experienced it, I'm sure, and I certainly have on many occasions where you go somewhere and it just doesn't feel right. And it usually begins in this gut region. And really nothing is happening in the gut. It is the water area that surrounds the gut that is starting to first sense that there is a vibrational mismatch that's going on. So what I have had as a practice, and I didn't know that I had that practice because it was a resurrective and restorative practice, where I would take my time and have, left hand over my solar plexus and right hand over my navel. And many of you who've done my meditations, I often ask you to do that. And that's really to do with that restoration of the gut. Because remember, the gut is a physical organ. It is a full spectrum, and it has a full spectrum existence. So by just connecting there, one, you're establishing the connection. And now when you're directing your conscious vibes, you're infusing the water that fills up this humongous cavity in which your gut resides. Meters and meters of your gut resides. You are automatically creating a terrain that is so conducive for those happy microbiome in there. You're automatically creating a terrain that is not conducive to beings that are not in service of your highest good. You are exercising your role as the creator of your own terrain, such that these living beings make their own choices. And those beings, like that bacteria that is not conducive to your highest good, can choose to become debris. Your waters are infused with love, kindness, and compassion. And that allows those beings that are not in service of your highest good to automatically depart. Water plays a very important role in healthy levels of peristalsis, which is a natural muscle reaction of this, one of the longest muscle forms that we have within us. And that release of vibrational presence of other beings that are not in service of a highest good, that release creates the space, which is where that whole space element comes in. And in that space, it creates a container for full resurrection of this organ. As the organ resurrects, because you now have a terrain that is rich in healthy microbiome, our large intestine, by the way, has got pockets, perfect pockets of probiotics exist in there. They shut off those probiotic sacs when our terrain is not conducive to them. But now it starts to become conducive, so your gut is further enriched with the healthy microbiome. And you know where it shows up to begin with is in your dreams. You reconnect to this microbiome in your dreams. And the dreams are really rich and quite happy, like really happy, pleasurable dreams. You may or may not remember them, but that is really where you start to see it. So much goes on. I mean, even just the thought that, every breath I'm taking, every step I'm taking, I'm walking with such a large collection of colonies of these happy beings within me. All I have to do is to consciously connect, up-level the vibes even more. And anything that doesn't match that vibration automatically starts to depart. And that is where the resurrection and restoration cycle sets in. So therefore, when we talked about the gut connection last week, I talked about when you get disconnected from your gut, one of the ways of reconnecting very quickly, because the gut is the custodian of your inner wisdom, one of the ways of connecting to it very quickly is to have your water a sip at a time. And what if you infuse this water with the same vibration that you are consciously sending to the water that creates a terrain in which your gut resides, love, kindness, and compassion? You're really celebrating this one big happy family that is so intimate and close to you. and is always there. It takes a lot of effort and consistent acts of annihilation for us to systematically destroy these living beings, the microbiome. They are delicate, but they also multiply very fast. So there's a lot that we can do in terms of restoring the human miracle so that it operates perfectly. Now let's look at the other elements. Well, before I go there, David, Helene, is there anything that's showing up for you that you want to bring in, point out or ask?
No, just that it's all sounding very exciting, you know.
Yeah.
But you had mentioned about stillness before, and I think about the vibration, how important the vibration is. So, is there anything? Do they work together? The stillness and a vibratory motion, or is there a conflict at some point? So how does that work?
Yeah. I mean, it just shows that there is so much of whatever let's say you're experiencing procrastination. Now that you know that you've got all of these beings inside you, we've sort of known it. But now that you know you can actually work with them proactively, you can get rid of any habit that you're not very pleased with within yourself. Because even if your mind, your thoughts find it difficult to get you to snap out of it, you can by holding your hands in this gut region, up-level the vibration of this area, and you suddenly have these trillions of beings that are now operating at a higher vibe. Sooner or later, you're going to switch to that higher vibe.
Thank you.
It's pretty awesome. We had a friend of mine was visiting from Bali, and every time she and I get together, often when I'm traveling to different parts of the world and I'm going to be in some part for an extended period of time, then she comes over and we have a week or 2 weeks together. So she was there for a week, and then we had the Dubai storm, so she stayed on for another week. So it was really good. She was just sharing with me that she had a particular type of gut infection, and it was quite a dangerous bacteria. And so she had like several months of being on very strong antibiotics. And as a result, she said that she could not sleep, and that sleeplessness continued for several months afterwards. And even if she slept, she would get these nightmares. So she was even afraid to sleep. And then one day she felt that she has to support her gut, because even though the infection was gone, there was this constant pain that was there, and the gut functionality just wasn't the way she would have liked it to be. So there was all constant discomfort that she was walking around with. So somebody suggested fermented foods and gave her this jar of sauerkraut. So just to support herself, she had a big bowl of sauerkraut. Can you imagine having a big bowl of sauerkraut, which she did? And she said she couldn't believe it. There was so much happiness in that sleep that she had. It felt as if she was dreaming throughout, but they were like really happy dreams. And we were looking at, what is it that caused that switch? And it really was that prior to that, so much of her terrain was constantly being destroyed with that antibiotics that she was on for such a prolonged period of time, that those nightmarish dreams were the nightmares that these organisms within her gut, the good organisms, were going through, because they were being annihilated and destroyed systematically. So it was their vibes and feelings that she was experiencing in her dreams. And this big dollop of of sauerkraut got these organisms to be so happy, and that's what she experienced. So while she was
Feeling
here,
great, all you have to do is go to the ball game,
yeah,
get a hot dog, and sauerkraut.
so just say that again, because I think it's an important point you're
Instead of-
making.
You're not feeling great, just go to the ballpark and get a
Yeah.
hot dog. and sauerkraut.
Yeah, yeah.
If you eat meat.
And you know, the like the universe really supports you. You know, she was telling me this story that night, and the next day, you can order vegetables and stuff, and they get delivered to you at the door. So I go ahead and order some cabbage and a few other things. This cabbage arrives, which is this big. I actually didn't notice how many grams or how many kilos that the cabbage was. I just ordered a cabbage, and it arrived that was this big, like a baby cabbage, you know, an actual human baby. And when we saw it, we said, okay, I think the message is we are meant to make sauerkraut out of it. So we created a big tub of sauerkraut out of that. Which we continue to enjoy. But it was really great to see that this is what actually transformed her existence.
Mhm.
Now, some of you I know are aware of these water paintings that I have, which I use to deprogram water or reprogram water, and really use them now that you know the power of what this water does. Use them to transform the quality of the water that you're drinking. Let's look at a few other elements, because I'm conscious we've spent half an hour on one element in the first anchor that resurrects. The fire element is the resurrection element. The fire element is the resurrection element. And where does a fire element play out in the gut, in your stomach? The acid in your stomach and the kind of movement that the stomach goes through is what invokes the fire element. So the fire element destroys. It destroys that which doesn't serve you. And in its destruction, it changes, it transforms the state of what it destroys, so that in this new state is the state of flow that water as an element brings forth. So the fire element in the stomach is activated by the food you eat, by the drink you have. You know, the stomach is the stomach and it just stays there. It's really tiny. It's really tiny, literally as no more than this, if that. And the moment it receives something, you know, the acid does come out, but that's the way it operates. And like a tumble, you know, like the washing machine tumble drum, the stomach starts tumbling because it doesn't have any teeth in it or anything like that. It doesn't have any hair in it. The acid is infused into whatever is gone into the stomach by the tumbling effect. So first of all, the way to work with the fire element so that it can actually perform its function of resurrection and restoration is when you eat about 3/4 full. Don't eat any more than that. About 60% is better than even 75%. So what that does is it gets the fire element, the acid, to really go in to every little cell of whatever it is that you have ingested. And there's a very interesting way in which your body communicates with you that that's enough. Stop here. And you know what that is? It sounds really silly, but it does happen. So when you're eating, you know, and make sure that you chew quite a lot, so that allows the food to go in the perfect state into the stomach. so that the fire element can actually destroy as opposed to break down. So if we don't chew and we just swallow, then that fire element is breaking down what you've taken or attempting to break it down. Many things it can't break down. So it gets putrefied and it's not that effective. But there's also an excess of fire element. So important to chew, hence swallow your solids, chew your liquids. So when you swallow your solids, the fire element is doing its thing, and you keep eating. You're not. You may a lot of the time we are full, but we are not satiated, so we keep eating. I mean, I know this. This has been my problem for decades. So I totally get that. Full but not satiated, so keep eating.
That's when you eat too fast. That
Too
you're
fast, yeah, too
And you
fast.
don't chew.
and you don't chew, but when you eat too fast,
Yeah.
you don't realize that you're getting full. You're not enjoying it either, and you feel
Yeah.
that feeling being full, but you
Yeah.
don't have satisfaction.
Yeah, yeah. So the way if you eat, you can be mindful about eating, but you may still want to eat more because you're not satisfied. But if you actually become connected to the fire element as you are eating, now that you know that that is an important role it plays, there is your stomach, when it's about 60, just over 60% full, releases a burp. And that's the burp, which is the ideal point where you would stop eating. And you will have such a healthy restoration of your gut. Now, what also happens is if you continue eating beyond that point, there is another burp that happens, which basically is now saying you are now 90% full. So you can just imagine, I mean, this really helped me quite a lot. Just imagining my stomach as a washing machine, and I'm filled it with clothes. If you're just 60% full, the clothes actually do get clean very fast, and you don't need to have a long wash cycle. They get, they spin well and they're drained well. All of that happens. But if you overfill the washing machine, it struggles to move. The cleaning is not that good. And a lot of the time, the spinning doesn't squeeze out all the water. So you have clothes that come out laden with water. All of that happens with us when we do that with our stomach, but that's a washing machine tumbler in the tumble drum equivalent. And this one is a dangerous one because it isn't filled with water. It's actually filled with acid. The water pH is highly acidic, and there's actual acid being dumped in this area, in the stomach. So as an element, if you can be consciously aware of that first burp and find a way in which, for at least for several days, you stop at that, within 3 days, your gut health completely transforms. 72 hours is all it takes. Just pick on that first burp. It happens. It does happen. It's a small one, but it happens. Now, if you don't stop at that, stop at least at the second one. And if you don't stop at the second one, that is where acid reflux and all that happens. The third burp and the burps that follow often are acidic ones. They bring out stuff back into your throat, and it doesn't at all taste good. So that's the fire element playing its part in anchoring a restorative series of actions for restoring your gut health. The element of air. So notice it, by the way. I mean, when I got it, I thought it can't be true, but actually it is. Notice it. You will see there's a small little burp that comes, which is like your stomach communicating, okay, I'm ready. This is perfect. The air element happens through your breath naturally anyway. The air element blows away the clutter, brings focus. So all of this, like consciously thinking about love, kindness, and compassion, all of that is like the air element that you are working with. The breath, doing all the breathing exercises, the breath of fire, and all of that I do is the air element, blowing away the clutter, bringing focus. The earth element is also provided by the food that we eat, which anchors this new state of flow. Let's look at the second anchor. The second anchor is the gut organ connection. So absolutely, the gut is the one that plays a very important role in the whole digestion process. Digestion process is ingestion, absorption, and excretion, elimination or excretion. And the stomach is the fire. So its role is to really break down and get the food into the small intestine. So the small intestine can work very, very powerfully with the water element as well as the earth element and the air element to start extracting the nutrients and separating that which is to be eliminated and that which is to be absorbed. And it is your large intestine, which is where the organ connection very specifically is programmed. Now, sure, your large intestine absorbs, and different parts of the large intestine will take the nutrients that it has absorbed and supply them to the organs that they are connected with. What you can do in case you have a lethargic gut or you have certain gut issues that are going on, you can do a reverse flow of energetic healing from your organs to restore the health of your gut. So, for example, when I say breathe into your heart, love, kindness, and compassion, breathe out gratitude and peace. I say that quite often in my meditations, right? When you do that into your heart is automatically communicating to that part of the gut which represents the heart. So even if your gut may be feeling a little bit disheveled or there might be something wrong with it, through the heart, you're affecting that. Taking proactive action, conscious action to support your kidneys, going through processes where you are eliminating and or dissolving anger, which has an impact on the kidneys and on the liver, has a direct impact in bringing, restoring health back into your gut, because there are certain parts of the two parts of the gut that are related to the kidneys. So you can actually do this reverse restoration as well. Sometimes your gut has got external unhelpful bacteria or fungus or parasites in it. You can go to the organs. And sometimes you can't help it, but you are required to take medication to support the calming of the gut. That's very possible. And if that is happening, work with your organs. And the moment you work with the other organs, energetically infusing them with love, with kindness, with compassion, breathing in, allowing a rainbow light to go into those organs, it automatically goes into the gut. The third anchor is, and I've talked quite a lot about it in the context of the first anchor of the 4 elements, which is the microbiome. Just this knowledge that you have such a large contingent of beings that are with you, alongside you, rooting for you, holding this space for you, and very proactively so. They're constantly operating only from that truth, and they exist inside you. And the gut is their home. And through this home, they provide their service to you. They are only there in service of your human form. Your soul doesn't require the microbiome. That knowingness itself is amazing even, really awesome and amazing. And you can work with this contingent. This contingent is impacted by your full spectrum well-being. So sure, what you eat has an impact on it, which is physical, but your thoughts do as well. They don't, I mean, the thing is, they're quite intolerant. There's a zero tolerance that your microbiome has to your thoughts. In terms of low vibe thoughts, actually just destroys it. More so than anything else, more so than the food you eat, your thoughts have a direct impact in destroying your microbiome terrain. So when I understood this, I thought, okay, what is the function of thought? Thoughts only have one function, which is to support us to create a series of beliefs. And it is our belief that gives us our experience of life. So like David and Helene, you have an innate belief that, we live in a positive world, and whatever is occurring through your own choice of actions and words and experiences, you can still continue to hold your positive stance. You have that belief because it's a thought that you've thought a lot. And you've expressed it in a whole host of tools, words, music, and experiences. So when I looked at this, I thought, okay, I really do want to connect to my microbiome. And I really like that imagery of having these, countless beings with big smiling, beaming, smiling faces. Walking around with me wherever I go. And if I have these thoughts that are low vibe thoughts, the smile becomes a frown. And even that visualization of that image felt burdensome. So I thought, okay, I'm going to develop this connection more, and see what happens energetically. Because after all, we are all vibrational beings. That's who we are. We're a collection of vibrations. And it was pretty awesome to know that this human form has got 124 trillion cells. And within those cells are all of these, God knows how many other living beings that exist that are there to support us. So even if your body, even within your body, it's usually the gut where the extraterrestrial bacteria infection or parasite infection or fungus infection that is not in service of your highest good occurs. Despite that, and it may cause a lot of discomfort, knowing that vast majority of you actually is in support of your highest good, if you connect to that, it multiplies very, very fast. You literally can restore your overall health very rapidly yourself. There are times when, when you have a discomfort in your gut, you automatically stop eating. You just don't feel like eating. It doesn't feel good. Or when you have fever, your taste buds don't taste of anything, or they taste bad. So again, as a result, you don't feel like you want to eat anything because the taste is not that good. Really, it's because your gut is saying, give me some space. And in that time, even while you're feeling the discomfort, you can at least, take the left hand on your solar plexus, right hand over your navel. You are breathing. However, how much of a pain you may be in, you may as well just add these words with every breath you take. Love, kindness, and compassion. And now you can simply imagine that you are sharing the love, kindness, and compassion vibe with these microbiomes. And these little frowny faces are turning into big beaming smiles. And they are automatically reproducing more of such beings.
That's so funny, in our teachings, when we talk to people about positive thinking, and we give them all, examples of why it's so important to think positive. We never mention about the smiling faces in the gut.
Yes.
Something else to add in there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, Mynoo. Can you just check the chat?
Okay.
Check the chat.
Okay. So, yes. Do you want to read the chat, David and Helene?
Okay, nuts. No, I'm not actually saying it. Okay.
I'm not seeing that.
How can sugar level?
There it is.
There it is. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. All right. So Asha said with these positive connections with the gut, we'll be able to cure physical problems.
Yes, it will certainly be able to support our bodies to restore the physical ailments. So we certainly should be able to do that, would be able to do that.
She also wanted to know how sugar levels can be helped through the gut.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a direct answer to that, and I haven't practiced it enough, but logically it feels like it makes a lot of sense that there will be some form of automatic rebalancing that would take place.
I mean, if you have that positive connection with the gut, it really should. It doesn't like segregate one thing from another. It should be a healing tool for healing the whole body, right?
Yeah. But you certainly can restore your physical health, because what is happening here, this is the point of the second anchor. What the second anchor is doing is, remember, every organ has an originating intent. And what that second anchor is doing, which is the organ connection, the gut organ connection, what it's doing is it's starting to restore the organs back to their originating intent. The microbiome, not only does it, if you have a good amount of microbiome, it really does process excess of lots of stuff, including pollutants. It takes a lot of ingestion of pollutants for the microbiome to be destroyed. I mean, it is actually, yes, it's delicate and it is very resilient and it multiplies really fast. So that's why I feel that there is a lot of possibility of restoring our physical health by working with this type of nuanced understanding of the gut. I want to talk about the fourth anchor because we've only got 6 minutes left. The fourth anchor is the inner lining restoration. So the gut is not like any other muscle in that the muscle has got lots of fibers and it's quite dense. So the gut is quite a fine muscle, but it's quite a thin muscle group, and it has like it's a tubular muscle that has a tube in it. So the inner lining of that whole region of the gut, starting from the stomach, the small intestine, and the large intestine, plays a very, very important role in having good gut health. Good gut health, by now, we already know, is paramount to overall health and well-being. So how do you restore, and this is where the resurrection is sometimes needed, the inner lining of the gut? One very important way could be working with your gums. How do you work with your gums to restore the inner lining? You work with your gums by introducing this practice of oil pulling. 20 minutes of coconut oil is really great. It's antibacterial, antiviral. And if you add a few drops of peppermint and clove to it, it actually tastes very refreshing too. So you don't feel like you're gagging with a spoonful of oil in your mouth. The first thing you do when you wake up in the morning, have a tablespoonful of that coconut oil in your mouth, and you start swishing it like that. Go about your morning chores while you're swishing it. 20 minutes go by quite easily. And then once those 20 minutes are done, you then, spit this oil out. And then you can brush your teeth. I always, once you have done that brushing of your teeth with your regular brush, take your finger, your index finger, and just go over your teeth like you're massaging it. Okay, like each tooth. So it's quite a big practice. And do it from the front, do it from the back, but you're just going round, round, round like that. So what you're doing there is you're really, really, really working with. So what does oil pulling do? Oil pulling literally sucks out the toxins into your mouth. Your mouth is very naturally positioned because every organ terminates in your mouth. Most organs and most of your systems terminate also on your hands and as well as your feet. But there's very little that we can do with our hands and feet for 20 minutes or so, which sucks out the toxins. But in your mouth, you can actually utilize that to transform the inner lining of your gut. The inner lining of your stomach is hardened when you just have tannin-based substances without protein. So the tannin goes for the protein in the tissue of the stomach, and that hardens the inner lining of the stomach. The good news
Just make
is,
sure when you do that you have a pad and pen with you if you're with a couple, because I know that when we did that in the past, we had a problem communicating. Like if I asked her a question, she's going like that. It's hard to, when you're by yourself, it's great. When you're with somebody, you got to be able to write notes, answer, and asking questions.
so oil pulling is one way of doing it. Getting your organs back to their originating intent is another very important way of restoring the inner lining of the gut. And you can do that. There's a whole host of meditations that I have. Actually, I was looking at the Beyond Meditation playlist, and there is one mini series on the gut connection. I'll share the link to that in the Beyond Meditation group that you can do, which takes you back to the originating intent of these organs. The moment that originating intent remembrance returns, your organs automatically start restoring themselves. And when you're doing many of these other activities that we are covering in the Human Miracle series, your terrain is becoming healthier and healthier and healthier anyway. Understanding that your abdominal cavity is a big, large cavity which is filled with water and air, and houses all of these different organ systems, using the water that you ingest to infuse the water that exists within you by blessing this water or having it as the miracle water through the paintings that I've done or other forms of of water, that good quality water, drinking it a sip at a time, being present to the blessings as that water is traveling down your gut, transforms the fluid vibration in the abdominal cavity. So inside and outside, you're actually up-leveling the vibrations. That has an impact, not just on your tissues, but also on all of those living beings that reside there, that are in support of you. Resurrection, restoration is guaranteed, mission accomplished. Over to you, David and Helene, to complete.
All right, well, so, wow, I just learned so much tonight. It's hard to, I mean, basically, how you can restore what's happening in your gut, or resurrect what's happening in your gut with doing physical things as well as your thoughts. And I find it very interesting because we do work in the area of positivity, and if you have a positive mindset, that connection with the gut is so transformative.
Yes, indeed. There's a question that Asha ji has asked about, is there a particular type of coconut oil? I mean, I tend to go for cold pressed organic coconut oil. So you can get that quite easily. And it's usually a little bit cloudy and sort of a little bit set. So you'll need to perhaps run it through warm water for it to melt. And then you'd have a spoonful of that. So organic cold pressed is really the best one. So yes, let's.
I wanted to mention when you were talking about that tiny burp that comes. That's very fascinating because I mean, we think of a burp, but we don't be mindful like that. It's really very good to control what's happening in the system.
Yeah,
There's also some different kinds of foods that stay down better, that that may have to be, they can't, if you eat them raw, it could cause that, have that kind of
Acid reflux.
Acid reflux, like onions.
But it is, we can talk about it another time. We've already come to the end of this, but this whole acid reflux, you can literally 72 hours staying with this first burp stop. You can overturn all of this stuff. Acid reflux, the whole lot just disappears.
That's great to know.
It's pretty awesome.
Well, pretty awesome.
You're pretty awesome.
You're pretty awesome, and your insights are always like over the top.
I'm a conduit, and I feel blessed. I've showed up.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of the day, rest of the evening.
Thank you, Mynoo. Thank you.
I'm going to pack up, and I'm taking a flight in a few hours. So
do you know where?
Back to India?
Yeah, I'm going to India for a few days. So.
Oh, you're coming to Bombay?
I'm flying into Bombay, but going to Pune actually for a few days, and then I'll come back to Bombay. But I'll be in Bombay. I will see you this time.
Yeah, please.
Okay.
Let me know when you're in Bombay.
I will.
Be straightening out the whole political scene in India.
I'm really not that connected to the politics of it, but I am vibrationally, so I'm very engaged at a vibrational and energetic level, and that side is fine.
That's good.
Okay, my dear.
Whatever else shows up, the energetics is actually very good.
Sending you love.
Thank you.
Have a beautiful day.
Yes, thank you. Good night.